we've got ourselves a classic 4-point game between the Capitals, your Washington Capitals and Florida Panthers. Um, it's pretty close to a pick. Panthers slight road favorite -120. You have an underdog pick here, but it's not the traditional one that we usually see on the show.
Yeah, so I think it'll make the show debut. I'm going to go with the three-way draw on the Panthers and Capitals here, which should be north of +3, should easily be found north of +300 wherever you're playing. My logic with these is whenever we're talking about a tie, you want to look for a game that you think is going to stay within a goal or two throughout. So I think based on these two teams, the positioning, the way the Capitals are set up right now without Ovechkin, I love their game defensively versus Carolina. I actually thought it was almost unlucky that they gave up three. Anyone who watched the game would have seen that two of them were kind of unlucky bounces. And I think that opens up a lot of doors for the Capitals keeping this close. With that said, Florida have been really strong. They're offering a lot more offensive punch. So I think this is just one where at this point in the season, I should note actually that I was turned on to this by Nick Alberga that we do the action podcast with, Fantasy on Ice. He mentioned this play first. I thought it was a really good play. I thought there was a tough loss on this on Tuesday. And yeah, I just think there's a lot of logic that dictates this game is going to remain really close throughout, which is my whole thinking when you want regulation ties. It just all revolves around what the number is going to be. When it's +320 and you think it's going to head down to the final 10 minutes within a one goal game most of the time or tied at that point, that's when you're starting to get a lot of value. And that's the way I see this one going.
And for me, because I'm an Islander fan and they're in the thick of the race against the Panthers and Capitals, basically all you're rooting for as an Islander fan here is don't be a 3-point game. I can almost guarantee you that this game is going to overtime because that would be the worst possible outcome for the Islanders. But it is a good point, actually. Something I talk about on our soccer podcast, Wonder Goal, a lot when I bet the draw is the kind of surface level not logic when people would think oh, I want to bet the draw here. It's like, oh, these are two evenly matched teams. But what you're looking for more than that is that the draw is always going to be in play. Like that, like you said, it's pretty hard to envision one of these two teams running away with this one. Sure, any goaltender can have a dud on any night and things can get wonky with like a goal in like the first 2 minutes in any NHL game. But these two teams kind of profile right now, especially as two teams that not only are evenly matched, but I don't see either one being able to run away on the scoreboard, which keeps the tie in play the whole game. So yeah, I don't hate the logic there. Would be a bad result for my Islanders, but would be a good result for the podcast. So I'll sort of root for you. My underdog, Philadelphia Flyers, are near 2-1 against the Seattle Kraken. Flyers are on the road. Right now, Philly's +190, Seattle -225. The over-under here is 5.5. This one is twofold. One, you can't really trust the Kraken at any time at this kind of number because of their goalies. And when they were going well and they were paying off even at these prices earlier in the season, was because they were shooting the lights out. They led the NHL at one point by quite a margin and shooting percentage at 5-on-5 shooting percentage. That's dipped down a little bit. And the Flyers, we know that they will play you tough. They are a team that's built on kind of blood and sweat. That's what their coach wants. John Tortorella, he deserves a ton of credit for the way that this team is or has exceeded expectations. And I don't expect them to come into Seattle and just completely lay an egg. So the Flyers should provide good value here. They gave the Kraken a pretty sturdy test. Seattle was a better team when they last met not too long ago. But this goaltending matchup should heavily favor the Flyers this time around with Carter Hart playing rather than Sandstrom, the backup. So with Hart in goal, I think that the Flyers are well worth it at this price on the road in Seattle. And I think the Flyers are going to fit kind of a strategy that I'll look to play down the stretch, which is there are going to be some teams that are sellers, lottery bound, that you just know are not going to give you the effort. And then, so you can almost cross them off on most nights. The Flyers are not going to fit that bill at all. And they'll be playing when they're playing teams that are in these quote unquote must win spots, right? Seattle's still in the thick of a race in the Pacific Division for a playoff spot. So that is always going to be baked into the number, and will inflate the price on teams that need to win more than the also ran that they're playing.
Yeah, I completely see what you're thinking here, and it was as much of a sweat as it probably like Philly made it such a close game with Sandstrom in, and I thought Seattle really put forth a really good effort. So I could see how getting them as an underdog here with Hart in the goal suddenly becomes quite valuable.